You are listening to Directions from a Spiritual Tour Guide podcast. I am your host, Chanel Scott. I'm a psychic medium and energy healer who has been supporting those on a spiritual journey for over a decade. I'm your tour guide into the world of the unknown, showing you that the magic of the universe is at your fingertips. I believe spirituality is simple and fun, and this podcast will make it easily accessible, giving you the real talk on all things divine and spiritual, helping you to step into the flow. Manifesting your dreams because we all deserve to be living our best life. Are you ready for an adventure? Hello, Sunshines, and welcome to a new episode of Directions from a Spiritual Tour Guide podcast. My name is Chanel Scott. I am your host and your spiritual tour guide on this beautiful spiritual journey we call life. I am here today to talk a little bit about Oracle and Tarot cards. I get asked a lot about my preference and what decks I like and what the difference between the two is. And because I'm teaching Oracle card reading, or I should say card reading this month, because I'm going to teach you both Oracle and Tarot, I'm getting, asked this question. So I wanted to share here on the podcast about the difference between the two. So I am teaching card reading in person this month. That doesn't happen very often. Both are called a sip and shuffle. Sip because grab your mimosa. It is a morning event, or your non-alcoholic drink. And we are going to learn about the basics of card reading. I am going to be at Mystic Ramen in Hamilton, Ontario on King William on Sunday, November 17th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. You're going to buy your tickets for that event through Mystic Ramen. So jump over to their website, events, and you'll be able to get your ticket there. Also, there's some whisperings. There might be a little giveaway, and we might give some tickets away. So keep an eye on social media. I am also going to be in London, Ontario on Sunday, November 24th. That event's from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., a little bit later. Same thing, grab your mimosa, your non-alcoholic drink. They'll be provided at both locations. And we're going to learn about card reading. This is going to be a fun event. It's really light and easy. The idea is to laugh and have fun, and to learn about this divination tool that is really, it's one of my faves for beginners to learn, to tap into your intuition and trust yourself. So let's get into the nitty gritty though of actual card reading. So card reading, whether you're choosing Oracle or Tarot cards, is very similar. I would almost, go as far as saying the same in the beginning steps of things. Now, for those that know me, and if you've been listening along, you will remember that I love to promote individuality and uniqueness. So, what works for you? That is the biggest question here. You can treat this really easy peasy, light and airy, or you can create ceremony and ritual around what you do. Tarot tends to be a little more prescribed in the way that you store your cards, the way that I think you're not supposed to buy your own deck of tarot cards. There's a little bit more kind of like guidelines or rules around tarot, and it is a more prescribed way of reading cards versus Oracle, which is a little bit different. It's a little more easygoing. There's not as much of that there, but there can be if you choose to. My very, very first deck of Oracle cards, I was very careful with, and I kept a crystal in the box to keep them clear, and I would clear their energy every time I used them. And I slowly evolved to realize that my energy was on the deck of cards. I didn't have to change it. Even if someone else touched my cards, I knew that my energy was still there and strong. I'd clear them when I felt the need to clear them. So it was really different. Again, each to their own. Some people do not want you to touch their deck of cards. You'll often find with tarot readers, they shuffle the deck, they touch their cards, you don't touch them. I am not that person, and I know others that read Oracle that even have 4 or 5 decks in a basket or a box together, and they just kind of hand you a stack and they say shuffle and pick cards, and they'll tell you how many. So it's very different. It's very each to their own. But like I said, kind of the general rule of thumb is the same. The basics of reading the cards, whether you're choosing tarot or you're choosing Oracle, is going to be the same. Purchasing how you're drawn to it, the way that you pull cards, all of those things are really, really similar. Where the difference happens between these two decks is in the size and theme. Although there's tons of themed tarot decks these days, you can get a themed tarot deck for just about anything. But they tend to carry a very traditional imagery, and the meaning of each card is very traditional. This is the way it is. This is set. It's prescribed. This is the thing. Whereas with oracle cards, it's not. You're going to find different numbers of cards in a deck, different purposes. They're very different in that aspect. So an oracle card, I've seen decks as little as 20, 22 cards, all the way up to in the 70s. They typically have a theme. They have their own meaning to all the cards. It's not prescribed. Whoever created the deck is telling you what that card means. Or you're divining into it yourself and figuring out what that card means. They're going to have all different themes and styles. I've got angels and fairies and animals and you name it. We got a little of everything. Tarot cards on the other side are very set. A deck of tarot cards has 78 cards in the deck. It is divided into major arcana and minor arcana cards. In the deck, the major arcana cards are major life happenings or major life changings. These cards represent the Fool from the beginning to enlightenment, or when the Fool learns. So the cards, which are numbered 0 to 21, so there's 22 cards, move through the evolution that we go through, recognizing who we are, how we show up in the spiritual world, masculine and feminine, balance, growth, learning, death, rebirth, all of those beautiful things are represented in those 22 cards. The other remaining cards in the deck are divided into 4 suits, just like a traditional playing card deck, which is where this all started from, which goes all the way back to China, when they would play cards in China, which then kind of found its way into like Italy and France, where actual tarot was kind of born, where it evolved and the major arcana cards started to get added. What we know as the traditional deck that is kind of like standard is the Rider-Waite deck, which is actually produced out of England, but it hasn't really changed since then. The Rider-Waite is kind of the standard for tarot. So we have those 22 cards. They will have similar symbolism, meaning, all of those things in those 22 cards. The 4 suits are typically the pentacles or coins, cups, swords, and wands. I think wands is also will be staff or stick. You'll see slight variations. Those 4 suits are related to the 4 elements, and there's evidence of the elements throughout those major arcana cards as well. So the minor arcana cards are kind of the minor changes. In the minor suit, it is just like a regular deck of cards. You have the ace, 1 through 10, page, knight, queen, and king. Standard. That's the way it is. The meaning of each of those cards is kind of standard. Even the meaning of like aces across the board have a similar meaning, and then it is kind of like made more specific based on the suit that ace is. So tarot is very prescribed. Learning how to read tarot cards requires you to do memorization. You are going to memorize the meaning of those cards. And I literally just saw, and I wish I could remember who was selling it. I don't, but I'm sure if you Google it, you'd be able to find it. I literally saw a deck of like learning tarot cards, and it had the card, but around it, it had like the meaning of the card, symbolism. So it was beautiful in that sense, that it was really helping you to memorize the pieces of the cards to be able to do it. I have a cheat sheet that I use when I'm reading a more traditional deck of cards. I kind of have some of it memorized, but I am not somebody that wants to memorize the whole thing. Now, this being said, the more you read the tarot, the more you're going to remember what the cards mean. So yes, it's a lot of memorization in the beginning, but eventually it's just second nature that you know this is the card and this is what it means. I get like that with my oracle cards. When I use them a lot, I know what the card means when I just see the card come out. It has a meaning for me personally, like this is what it typically means for me, and it has a meaning of like what the card actually says. So it does cross over. There is a memorization factor that happens, but tarot is very specific in that way. I think that's why I'm not as drawn to tarot, because this system of memorization and that was just, it was more than what I could handle at the time. When I started reading cards like 25, oh my God, probably more than that years ago. I was in my 20s when I started reading cards. I was a young single mom, and I just had one back then, just one, but still I didn't have a lot of extra time. So I chose oracle cards because I was more drawn to them. To me, I don't like being restricted, and I feel like tarot is like restricting in the sense that the card has to mean a certain thing. And I know you can put your own meaning on things. I know that they'll start to have a meaning for you, but for me at the time, that's just the way that I resonated with it. I also didn't like the very like sharpness of the meanings of the cards. You know, a death card felt kind of awful to me. They were very like, this is the way it has to go. And to me, that just wasn't how I resonated. That doesn't mean that's not how you resonate, and the way that the tarot cards show up for you feels better. But for me, that wasn't. So oracle cards, many different themes, varies in the number of cards in the deck. The meaning is developed by the card producer, whereas tarot, always 78 cards in the deck, always 22 major arcana cards, 0 to 21, and then the rest is minor arcana cards, each suit, 4 suits, having those cards ace, 1 through 10, page, knight, queen, king. Simple. So, like I said, the difference comes when we're actually reading the cards, when we're interpreting the cards. There is a ton of card spreads out there which will help you to divine the cards. Doesn't matter, tarot, oracle, you can use them for both, and they are very, very helpful. Back in the day, my favorite was the Celtic Cross. It was a beautiful spread. It was a lot of cards, but it was a beautiful spread that helped you to get some clarity on things. It was so helpful. I would use that spread all the time. Now I actually channel spreads for my Divine Map community. If you are part of it, I love you. I'm so grateful that you are there. I love my Divine Map community. We come together 4 times a month. I do mentoring, but the end of the live sessions is actually this channeled spread and me doing the reading of it. I always channel a spread that is relevant to the energy of that month. And I have a huge library of spreads that range from, alignment and love and career and new year and all sorts of things. This month is an alignment spread, the alignment wheel. And then I also have a pull back the curtain. They're getting 2 this month. There's a bonus because the energy is that wild this month. So you can use these card spreads. So in a card spread, you're going to be told how many number of cards to pull and what the meaning of each card is. So there's typically like a question or like a statement. So like, for example, what is the block here? Or what is the hidden influence? Or what will this bring? And then you pull the card, and based on what the card is and the question you've asked, you can answer that. So the tarot cards, like I said, are really prescriptive. Everything has a meaning, everything has a purpose, and that's how we tend to read the cards. Whereas oracle cards, it's a little bit different. It's open to a little more interpretation. You can interpret the photo, like the picture in the card, the meaning of the card, the name of the card. There's so many pieces to it that you can pull out based on what kind of deck you are using. I even have a deck by Radley Valentine that is just like an answers deck, and it has like yes, no, this fall, ask again later. Like it's a great deck. So what I want to say about tarot, though, is there are people like Radley Valentine who are creating tarot decks that are kind of a hybrid between tarot and oracle. And I love these decks. Radley Valentine's Animal Guide Tarot is one of my favorite decks, and I use it all the time. I love that it has major and minor arcana because those major arcana cards jump out and they just have so much more meaning for me. They kind of go, oh, pay attention to this. The part about his cards are the suits. He uses the elements. He doesn't use necessarily the traditional suits in all of his decks. The card decks, like each card typically has the meaning written right on it, so you don't have to look it up. He carries some of the traditional pieces with it, but the imagery isn't necessarily those traditional images that you are used to seeing on a traditional set of, or a standard set of tarot decks. They just feel softer. They feel easier. They feel like there's more room. Again, I'm just somebody that I don't like to follow the rules. As much as I'm a rule follower and I'm a good girl for the most part, when it comes to my intuition and doing energy work, I really have to use things and move in my own way. I have to honor my process and the way that I receive. And I don't receive when there is a restriction on how I have to do things. Like I said, the more you memorize the tarot, the more that you are going to get better at knowing what the deck is, knowing the cards that you're pulling out, and getting those meanings super fast. But you do need to memorize them. So that's the general gist. Between tarot and oracle cards, there's not a huge difference. They're both used for divination. They're both a tool for deepening your intuition. They are unique in their own way. Like I said, tarot cards these days, you can get them in anything. I have an adorable set of Disney Villains tarot that my husband bought me last year for Christmas. And it has Disney characters, but again, the cards have the meanings that are reflective of a standard deck. And a lot of the imagery pulls from the imagery that would be used on a standard deck of tarot cards. So really, play with it, experience, I love places, if you can find a good metaphysical shop, they'll often have decks out so that you can see what they look like. Nowadays too, though, if you Google, you can kind of see what cards are in the deck, what they kind of look like. But use what you're drawn to. And like I said, I love these newer Oracle Tarot hybrid decks, and I use those a lot, but I still have a lot of really traditional Oracle cards that don't follow that tarot theme at all that I love working with because they have different meaning and purpose, and they just have a very different vibe for me. So use them as you need to. Use them as a divination tool. Use them to deepen your intuition. If you're interested in coming to learn how to read cards, come, please. It's going to be so much fun. So much fun. I'm really looking forward to these events. So again, I'm at Mystic Ramen on King William in Hamilton on Sunday, November 17th from 9 to 11 a.m. I am in London, Ontario at Rebecca Nash Photography, which is East London. I am there on Sunday, November 24th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. For those events, Mystic Ramen, register through their website, and for London, you can register through mine. I will dive a little bit deeper into the difference between the cards, and of course, I'm going to give you the lowdown on how to use them, all those basics, how to pick a deck, how to shuffle the cards, how to pick cards from the deck. There comes with a handout, and I will also be giving you a sheet of card spreads that you can use on your own to help. I'm so looking forward to it. And I love Oracle and Tarot cards. And I hope that listening to this, it might intrigue you to learn a little bit more. Maybe go get your own deck. I will say I love Hay House. They have a lot of options of card decks there, and they go on sale on a regular basis. I find sometimes going into a regular bookstore, I do better online, but there are so many amazing metaphysical bookstores out in your neighborhood, in the places that you live, so check them out. If you are in Hamilton, Sacred Realm is a beautiful little space. The owners are amazing. They have crystals and cards and all sorts of things. It's just a little place, but it is super cute. There is in London, Ontario, my hands down favorite is the Mandala Bookshop. It's right down by Victoria Park. I've been buying from there for years, and actually I really miss that bookstore. I haven't been in years since I moved to Hamilton, but it is one of my faves as well. But check out what's local in your neighborhood, in your neck of the woods, and see what there is to offer, because there are so many great metaphysical stores out there, and if you can support local, I am all about that. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a line, send me an email, a DM, follow me on social media. I post lots there. I'm always happy to answer the questions. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with me. If you can like, subscribe, comment, follow, all of those things, it means the world to me. Podcasts drop every Monday night. Sorry, I know this one's a little bit late, but I was at the dentist yesterday, and I was a little bit cranky when I got home and in a little bit of pain and did not record. I also am feeling the daylight savings time, so I was a bit of a hot mess express last night, so bear with me. But they are normally dropping on Monday nights. Every Monday morning there is a new energy forecast, and of course every day there's a little channeled message to help you through the energy of the day and the week. So those are on social media, so check it out. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being here on this spiritual journey with me and allowing me to be your spiritual tour guide from my heart and soul to yours. Until the next time, bye now.